This is Jeremy with Oh So Simple Life. Thank you for being here, and please feel free to subscribe.
What's up, guys? Here I am, live once again, just sitting here in my car on this warm September day in Southern California. Happy hump day. And I'm here in the Target parking lot, and just want to share my truth, very simple truth, about how I experience my reality of being human in any given moment. And so, thanks for being here, guys, for this quick little insight that I'm going to share. Thanks for being here, and let me know if you're watching the replay or if you're here live. Just let me know. So I just want to share that in my life, I've figured out something that is very essential to my own peace and my own happiness and my own bliss. I've come to realize in these moments every single day that simplicity is the key. Simplicity, living without resistance, living without attachment. This has been the key to my experience of bliss and happiness and love and peace and joy and satisfaction. And so this simplicity of life, I've realized in this moment, I just want to convey this to you guys as clear as possible, without being too airy-fairy, without being too hippy-dippy, without being too, in the clouds. I just want to ground this. I want to ground this experience of being human that I've come to in my life. I have this concept, I have this alias, I have this idea that's called Oh So Simple. Oh So Simple. And this just came to me one day a few years ago, probably in 2014, around there. I came up with this idea, and this idea just came out of revelation, out of pure ecstasy, out of pure joy in a moment when I was having in a hike. I was at a hike and I was in a tree taking a break, relaxing, enjoying, being present with myself, and then I realized that, wow, life is oh so simple. And so what does that mean? So to me, that means a number of different things, but ultimately it comes down to one thing. And that one thing that oh so simple means to me is the ability to just be here, presently aware, presently immersed, and completely surrendered to this moment of life. Because in this moment, this is where we own everything in our lives. This is where everything happens in our lives, in this very moment. And so who we are, what we do, what we think, what we feel, what we experience, what we receive, everything is in this moment. And so that is the simplistic attitude and perception of life. And so as human beings, we tend to overcomplicate. We overcomplicate a simple truth that keeps us from bliss, that keeps us from peace, that keeps us from experiencing joy and happiness. And so this overcomplication of life is just a symptom of thinking. So the paradox is that we have to change our thinking with our own thinking, but the key is to step back in our thinking and to take the position of the observer, of the witnesser, of the experiencer. Take on that detached, objective position of what you're experiencing, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're sensing. Take on that objective witness of all of these experiences, and you realize that this moment is all we have. The more we are stuck in the loops, in the mental loops, in the rat race externally, in a state of resistance, in a state of limiting beliefs, in a state of emotional trauma, in a state of, ignorance. When we attach to these states, we are robbing ourselves of our own presence. We are taking away the gift of existence, of pure being, by being stuck in these loops that we create within our own heads. We are the creator of this mental prison, that we have become victimized by, and it is no other person's fault except our own. And we are the ones that have been creating this chaotic kind of, how do you call it? I guess this it's a loop. Okay, it's a loop in our heads, and it replays over and over. It's the story that we're telling. So it's the stories that we're telling that either empowers us or disempowers us in this moment. But whenever we are not in this moment, that's when we are either, anxious about the future, we're worried about the past. This is keeping us from the joy of being human. This is just keeping us from the pure ecstasy of just being present, and that's the truth that I have realized in my life, is that, hey, life isn't so complicated. Life isn't this problem that we need to solve. Life is totally and absolutely a mystical experience, and that experience is only happening in the now, in the present moment. This is the gift that never stops on giving. The present. That's why we call it the present. So to be here now, to be presently aware, to be completely satisfied with this moment, it doesn't take rocket science to be present. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out how to be happy. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out what creates joy in our life. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out what really is our deep passion in life. None of these things are complicated. All of these things are already there. They're waiting to be unfolded, to be uncovered. As soon as we move away from living in our heads, from living through the ego, through the lens of separation, this deceptive lens of separation that we see with the egoic mind, as soon as we move away from this kind of thinking that creates separation, we will be free of psycho-spiritual suffering. And when we are free of that kind of suffering, our emotional body opens up, it balances itself, and our emotions are what dictates our present moment experience. And so when we change the way that we think, when we become the observer, when we become the awareness, when we become one with everything that is happening in this moment without attachment, without resistance, when we become that experiencer, what else is there to experience besides bliss, besides joy, besides curiosity, besides wonder, besides awe, besides pure satisfaction? What else is there right here, right now, when we're not living in our heads, when we're not creating resistance in our heads? That resistance is the complication. That fear that we experience is the complication. But when we are free of that, when we are liberated from these mental prisons, these mental loops, these things that we keep pressing play all the time and every moment because we're not being aware, that's what keeps us from our true nature, which is the spiritual essence of being human, which is the pure ecstatic energy, the pure bliss. And I love the word bliss, all right? I'm blissed out, and that is the simple truth of who I am. And so this moment is where I would love for everyone to return to. This moment is where we need to become completely immersed in, so that we can extract the most out of life, so that we can enjoy the fruits of life, so that we can be the best version of ourselves in this moment without resistance. Because why? When we live in fear, we're literally contracting our energy. We're contracting our intelligence, our consciousness, our everything. Fear is nothing other but false evidence appearing real. And this false evidence is nothing other but this sense of separation, this illusion that we live in our heads that, hey, I'm me, I'm different than the other person, I'm separate from the environment, whatever it is. You could view separation in so many different ways, but I don't want to go down those wormholes. I just want to make it clear that this moment, this present moment, is where we all are at all times, whether we are aware of it or not. We're everything we do, everything we feel, everything we think, it's all in this moment. And so to return to the general vibe of this video is that life is not a problem to be solved. Life is a mystery to be experienced. Okay? It's not a problem to be solved. So let's experience life with open heart, open mind, open soul, everything open, and let us co-create this reality right here, right now, by bringing in a new world, a new experience with the foundations of spirituality, of love, of wisdom, of compassion, of respect, of surrender, you know, of all of these good things that life has to offer in the here and now. Let us return to that. And when we return to that, then we will be rewarded with such amazing, what's another word for bliss? I don't know. Such amazing realizations and revelations and you know, joy and pleasure and satisfaction. And so now I'm sounding like a broken record, because I'm going back and trying to describe the same thing in many different perspectives. But at the end of the day, it's very simple. Be here now. Be completely in love with this experience. Be completely aware of your thoughts, which create your feelings, your emotional states. And those emotional states are where that's the ground, that's the soil for our actions. So if we work backwards, the actions that we're taking in our life, the behaviors that we're embodying in our life, what is the root of that? What is right underneath the action? The emotional state. So the emotion is the fuel for the action. That's the energy that we put into motion to create a certain experience. Now, what is beneath that emotional state? What is beneath that emotion that we're feeling? It's the subconscious belief. And the subconscious belief is molded by our thinking. So at the most fundamental level of experiencing this human experience, it is our thoughts. And yes, they were right. As a man thinketh, so he becomes. But we have to understand that it doesn't end there, and it doesn't be, you know, it's the way that we think creates the way that we feel, and the way that we feel dictates our actions. And so when we are aware of these things, we step back, we become the observer, we become the awareness, and we strive to be better than who we were yesterday. We strive to make the most out of this experience. We strive to live without resistance, live without attachment, be completely free, moldable, completely in a flow state, going from one moment to the next without any expectations, and we'll never be disappointed ever. No matter if we're riding a high, no matter if we're riding a low, we're keeping that steady flow state right in the middle, complete balance between positive and negative, between light and dark, you know, complete balance of the divine masculine and the feminine within us. It's not rocket science. It just takes a little practice, just takes a little openness and willingness to experience life in all of its forms without creating any expectations around it, and just being open to this moment. And as Bob Marley likes to say, be a natural mystic. And that's what I am. And that's how I found my bliss, which is always here in this moment. No matter what I'm experiencing, I'm returning to my center, which is the experiencer, the observer, the human being. Not the human doing, not the human thinking, not the human anything, just the human being. Because being, surrendering to your being, which is this moment, which is this presence, that is the flow state. That is the balance between surrendering and disciplining. That's where we create. That's where we manifest. That's where we attract things. That's where the universe and you become one. And this game of life is yours. This whole world is your playground. This moment is full of infinite possibilities, infinite potentialities. So when we come to this realization and we actualize it, what a freaking joyride. And so that's all I have to say today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Oh So Simple is out. Stay lifted.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and or share. And until next time, my friends.